Hey everyone, and welcome to another video in our ongoing Oracle Cloud video series. Today what I'm going to be covering is a custom workforce planning model that has been built inside of Oracle Cloud Planning. So again, this is different than the out-of-the-box workforce planning module. Uh, it is custom built, meaning we're just using a custom application, custom hybrid BSO cube, and we are building out a lot of the same workforce components, but you'll see some nuanced differences that I'll try to highlight and make sure that you get the full picture of what we're looking to do in this application. So from our landing page, if I look at our budget workforce card, you can see we have existing employees, new hires, we have an employee summary, and the workforce planning to FIN push. Now, I'll kind of level set here by saying that the dimensionality that we use is more or less the same as the dimensionality that you would have in your FIN cube. The only addition that we really make is that we have employee as a dimension. Now, the example that I'm going to show here is named employee planning. But with that being said, we can actually do either named employee, as you'll see here, or we could do position or FTE based planning as well. So again, bear in mind that what you see today is named employee, but this same setup could be used for position level planning. The first form we're looking at here is our existing employee form. Now, these employees could be sourced from a flat file that comes from an HR system, could be built out through an actual integration where we load these, but a lot of the key features, a lot of the key data points are going to be the same regardless of whether we're loading it through a flat file or some sort of direct connection. So we've got employee names with their ID. We have their titles, we have employee levels, hire dates, which are important for things like merit calculations to see if someone's eligible for merit or not. Then we have some other drivers like merit month, merit percent, a bonus percent, and then back to the data that comes from a file or a source system. You've got things like their comp basis, their comp rate, and then an annual salary that is calculated by taking either their annual comp basis and their rate, or taking an hourly rate times 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. And those kind of working hours and working weeks can also be set up and tailored to meet the needs of any client. So this form, again, is a form for managing those existing employees. As soon as the file is loaded, all of our calculations to get employee expenses are going to run. So as soon as the file is processed, we're going to calculate not only annual salary, but all of their employee expenses. And if I wanted to look at a particular employee's detail, I could right click on that employee and go to their detail. What this will do is take me to an employee detail form. And in here, I can see not only their headcount, I can see their salary, merit, bonus, and then a host of other benefits. So what you'll see in here is medical, dental, life insurance, short and long-term disability, 401k, workers' comp. All of those are some of the standard benefits that we have built in. In addition, we have Social Security and Medicare taxes, FUTA and SUTA. So these employees are being loaded and we're actually tracking them at the state level. So when we load these employees in, we have their location tagged to them as well. We use that to calculate SUTA taxes using SUTA rates and caps. The same thing is true for FUTA, where we're setting FUTA rates and caps. Any other taxes that have rates and caps or merely have rates and not caps are also stored in a driver form where we go ahead and calculate these different benefits. Again, the benefits you see here are sort of the standard that we roll out in this custom workforce application. If there are other benefits that you need to bake in, whether it's overtime or some form of incentive pay or PTO that is actually a dollar payout, or you want to dollarize that expense, those can be added, and whether it's a dollar-based assumption or a percent-based assumption, those can be layered into this application as well. I'll revisit relocation tuition reimbursement because those are two other dollar-based employee-specific expenses that can be budgeted. But what I'm going to do is actually go back and show you how when you make changes in the B300 form, the calculations run automatically and update the employee detail. So if I come back here and I were to look at this particular employee, and let's say that they've been with the company for over 5 years, so they're actually going to be eligible for a higher merit rate. Let's say that I gave them a 10% merit rate and they are a staff employee. So they're actually going to get a higher merit and a lower bonus. When I make those changes and click save, it'll recalculate their expenses. See, the number has gone down. If I come back over here, I can see the merit has gone up to 10%. The bonus has gone down to 5%. And their total expenses have updated as well. So that's the first thing to highlight there, is the idea that you can include overrides for things like merit or bonus, or if you would prefer not to include overrides, we can always remove these columns and the merit would either default to what is set at a global level or at a department level, or it could be something that actually feeds through from your HR system if that information is tracked there. Now, I'd mentioned it a minute ago. If I right click on this employee, you'll see this employee specific expenses. Again, this will take me to another form where I can input some of their expenses. So if I wanted to update their relocation or tuition reimbursement, let's say this person was moving in July, maybe they're getting a $25,000 relocation package. I can save that. That's saved. If I go to the employee detail, I can see $25,000 showing up in July for this particular employee. Now, some of the other features and functionality that we have is the ability to right click on an employee and either transfer that employee or depart that employee, as well as furlough the employee. I'm going to focus on transfer and departure because I think they're the most widely used when we deploy this for our customers. So if I wanted to say that this particular employee was going to be leaving the company at a point in time, I would select to depart them. It will fill in an employee there for me. What I can then do is select a month. I can either go to the member selector here and select a month, which I'll do, or I could actually just say, instead of departing them in July, let's depart them in September. So if I'm going to depart this employee in September, I click launch. Now this form will actually update and I can see immediately I have a depart month that shows up. So this person left in September. But if I want to see more detail, again, I can right click, go to the employee detail. It'll update this form. I can see the assumption is that if they depart on September, they're departing on the 1st of September. Now, that can be made as specific as it needs to be. If you wanted to select a specific day of a month that somebody was leaving, you can actually do that as well. We've sort of genericized this because we're just putting together a budget. It's not overly specific at this point. But again, we could also set it up so that if you selected September, it actually means that they're staying through the end of September. Those are just how we set up the assumptions on the back end of the calculation. But as you can see here, they departed the company in September. So now they are no longer being counted as a headcount. All of their expenses are gone at that point in time. Next, I'll show the transfer feature. So let's say I wanted to transfer the person right underneath here. If I right click, transfer employee, again, it'll fill in my employee. It will fill in the from cost center and from entity. So it auto populates those based on where the person resides currently. And then I would need to select the month. So I'm going to move this person halfway through the year. I'm going to move them in July. I'm going to leave them in the same entity, the corporate entity, but I'm going to move him from sales. I'm actually going to move him from the sales cost center to the marketing cost center. So if I select marketing here, I click launch. There we go. Now I can see as of July, this particular person was transferred. If I right click, go to employee detail. You can see they transferred out in July, so their headcount is no longer here, their expenses are no longer here. And actually, what I could do is if I wanted to see the other side of this, I can actually go to C305 marketing, and I can see they transferred in July, and their expenses and headcount picked back up there through the end of the year. So again, you can see that person moving from one place to the other. Likewise, if I were to right click on this employee, I can view the transfer report. And this will just be a form that shows me where that person was active, when they transferred out, where they moved to. So that's just a quick view of, hey, where was this person at? Where did they start the year? Where did they finish the year? And this is a nice quick way of seeing that in this review form. Now, again, this is most of the feature and functionality included in the existing employee form. We can have other assumptions layered in here, like I had mentioned, for overtime or other types of drivers that either need to show up in the form or need to have overrides in the form. There's some additional nuance for things like merit month. The merit month is a driver, again, set on a driver form. And at the very end, I'll go back and maybe highlight those driver forms. But I think it's important to see where the existing employees start, because this is really the basis of a custom workforce planning application. The other major component of the custom workforce planning app is the new hire planning. So new hire planning, again, gives you your entity and cost center. It gives you generic new hire names. So here we can see I've given 20 new hires. Those 20 new hires would be specific to each entity cost center intersection as well. So it's much more than the just 20 new hires that you can plan. It's 20 per intersection. Again, this is a generic person, so I could say that this is a new marketing analyst. It's not going to be a particular to a position, but I could, if there was a requisition number that I knew from our hiring practices or our hiring team, I could say this is the requisition that's being filled. I could specify their employee level. I can say whether they are whether this is an existing position, a new position, or replacement. I could say this is a new position. Then I can select where that person is located, either a US or international. Again, this has been genericized. We can actually get this to the point where you can select the actual state or country that the person is in. But for right now, we're just going to use a generic US versus international. I can pick the start month for that person. So this is a new hire. They are a winter new hire, so they're starting the year in January. They are an annual employee who is making $75,000. When I click save, we'll calculate this person's expenses. You can see the bonus percent is being pulled from a driver form. And I could actually override that and say your first year, they're not eligible for bonus. It would recalculate. And you could see the bonus went down there by about, or the total expenses went down there by about 10,000. Again, you could right click and actually go to this particular employee detail and see what they're doing. See their expenses, salary, no merit being calculated, because one of our merit assumptions is that you had to have been hired as of July in the prior year for your merit to be, for you to be merit eligible. So no merit will calculate for new hires. Again, that's something that can be tailored to each individual customer as needed. But we are going to see all of the other benefits default for them. Since they started in January, you'll see all of that. You'll see Social Security, Medicare, FUTA, and SUTA being calculated as well. So the nice thing is that these new hires, if you knew that you needed to hire a host of new hires that were all being brought in at the same level, this is a nice form in SmartView to be able to highlight, drag everything down, and load up multiple new hires at once. You could also add in comments to help provide more clarity as to who this person is. If you actually know the name of the person, you could certainly include it either in the title or the comments. I just have it here because I'm, again, genericizing who this person is and what they're doing. So again, new hires, One thing worth mentioning is that when you move from a budget to a forecast or one budget year to the next, right, the system won't inherently tie this new hire to somebody in the existing employee form. So when we move year to year, we would clear the new hires and then we would have them be re-entered in a new year. There are ways to actually tie in to HR systems and actually plan positions at a more granular level for these new hires. But the standard deployment that we go with for this custom workforce app is you've got your existing employees, which is everyone we know about coming from your HR system in your HR file. And then we have the new hires, which is the kind of putting in your requisitions or filling in requisitions that you might have from the HR system. The employee summary is kind of a as exactly what it sounds like. It's a summarization of here is our existing employee expenses for this intersection. Here is our new hires. And then here is our total employee expenses. Likewise, I can then see my employee headcount. So I can see my headcount. I had 18 existing, one new, which gave me 19. We also have headcount addition and reduction accounts so that you can see how many heads you added or lost during the year. So I added a new hire, so that is a addition of one. I had one employee transfer in July, so that's another. So two total for the year. And if I were to switch this to the sales group, you could see we had somebody transfer out in July, so that is one reduction. We had somebody depart in September, that's another. So that's two reductions from sales, two additions to marketing. The overall would be a net of zero effect at the end of the year. So again, employee summary is just a high level, quick snapshot for you to be able to see where your particular cost center is at. The last thing I'll highlight is the workforce planning to FIN push. The workforce planning to FIN push is a great view of workforce planning accounts and how they are mapping to your actual GL accounts in the FIN cube. So this form here is actually showing a source, which is the workforce planning cube, as evidenced by the workforce planning naming convention of the accounts. And on the bottom, we actually have the FIN cube where we have our GL accounts. And you can see we set up the form in a way that you can easily track and make sure that those various expenses are mapping from source to target accordingly. So this is, again, a nice reconciliation point for you to say, yes, I can see what I had in the workforce planning app has been pushed to the FIN app, and that connection is intact and is not broken in any way. What I'll mention is that the push from workforce planning to FIN actually happens every single time that you hit save. So every time you update something in the existing employee form, every time you add a new hire, every time you click save, it is not only recalculating expenses in the workforce planning cube, but it's pushing over to the FIN cube to make sure that those two cubes are in sync, to make sure that your budgeted employees in the workforce cube are making it over into the FIN cube so that all of their expenses are being counted and nothing is being missed. So again, at a high level, that's what this custom workforce planning application can give you. It gives you a great way of planning at the named employee or at the position level. It allows you to work through your existing employees that come either through a flat file or through some sort of direct connection to your HR system. It allows you to plan additional new hires to give you a rounded out view of your system and of your expenses for a given company cost center, company department combination. And then again, the different review forms that we have allow you to view your summarized information, allow you to view the data that has moved from one cube to the other. Last thing I'll highlight is just on the back end of this, if I go to data, and you can see the viewpoint that I have shown from the landing page is that of a user, but we actually do have into budget admin, workforce planning admin, we have all of these other drivers that are set by an admin that influence those calculations that we were showing. So things like payroll days per month, this would affect how the salary, merit, bonus is spread over the year. You can see we've gone with an even spread, but you could go with actual true working days, or we've had clients in the past who who decide to go with the number of pay periods per month. So if you have a month where you have 3 pay periods instead of 2, you could go with 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and then maybe one month has 3. It'll spread according to that distribution. So that's payroll days per month. Again, if I go back to our admin forms, your federal tax rates, that's going to be all of those rates that I was describing earlier: Social Security, Medicare, FUTA, again, rates and caps. And for others like Social Security, or for Medicare, just a rate, not a cap. Back into our admin. SUTA rates, it's the exact same thing, just having rates and caps by state. International tax rates, again, if you have international employees, you can set rates and caps by either country or, municipality, depending on how granular you want to be with your international planning. Comp and benefits. This is where we can set merit and bonus percents. We can set merit eligibility dates. You could set your medical, dental, life insurance, short-term, long-term, 401k, and workers' comp. And the other thing that I'll say is right here, you can see we're not setting this by cost center or by company, or by entity rather. These can be specific to companies and entities. They can be set by pay level. They could be set by position. Really, the world is your oyster in this type of custom workforce planning application. All of the different drivers that you've seen here, if you want to make use of additional drivers or fewer drivers, that's really your prerogative. You can customize this and tailor it to meet your needs. So again, that is our custom workforce planning solution. Hopefully you learned a little bit about what we'd like to roll out and what we can offer you in a custom cube. And if you have any questions, as always, please feel free to reach out to us. And we will hopefully see you again soon for another video in our ongoing video series. So thank you all, take care, and have a good one.